Welcome to ERTT Radio. I'm Mike, your host. Thanks for joining us. Been reading a lot on the news about a lot of the bullying that's been going on in different schools. I wrote a news article on it. And it just seems like the news media is really pushing this whole bullying thing. There's now charities devoted to the whole bullying idea, anti-bullying, stop the bullying. One thing I've had issues trying to understand is, why is this something new? I know when I went to school, there were the bullies, people that picked on the other students. It's always been there. So why now is it such a big deal all of a sudden? Part of it is, I think, the media is really trying to push this whole sympathy story to get people really worked up and to push things the way they want them to go. The end goal? For just a sensationalized story so that they can get better ratings. Granted, a lot of these bullying stories have ended in tragedy. There was the 14-year-old girl who committed suicide this last week. And my heart goes out to the family. But my question was, why did the parents not get involved? Why didn't they know what was going on in their child's life? And for the two girls that pretty much, if the accusations are true, it was downright harassment of what they were doing to this other student. Why didn't their parents know? Well, I've got a pretty good answer for that. I've been thinking about it last few days. And the bigger story isn't so much that the kids are bullying, but it's that we as adults are showing them how to do it. If you really think about it, it's true. As adults, you get into the corporate world. Well, corporations bully other corporations and take over. Politics, there's definitely political bullying. You don't go along with what I like. I bully you until you go along or you just shut up and don't say anything. And this has been going on for years and years. And yet, all of a sudden, we decide it's not acceptable. And we need to keep our children from doing this terrible thing. So all of a sudden we tell them, you guys shouldn't be bullying. You guys should stand up and put a stop to it. But what do we do as adults? There was a report of the SUV driver who got beat up by a bunch of bikers. Turns out, off-duty cops were involved in that scenario. There's been something that's been going on since the beginning of time, bullying the weaker. And we have trained our young people that is acceptable. Not necessarily through teaching them to bully others. They look around, they see what we do. Actions have always spoke louder than words. I mean, even the United States as a nation, we've bullied other nations into going along with what we wanted. And at times, we've brought arms to bear against those nations, whether right or wrong. And this has become a real problem in our culture, the whole bullying idea. It's nothing new, but we have addressed it as something that is new in our lives, which it's really not. I know for me, being a parent, I definitely teach my kids what is right and what is wrong. And that is something a lot of parents today just are not doing. They're not teaching their children how to be kind. The golden rule, for example, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, I don't want to be bullied and picked on. Most people don't. So why would you do that to somebody else? You could say, well, the kids don't know any better. Then why aren't we teaching them? I mean, we fill their lives with so much garbage. Television, media, bad influences. But do we really take time to teach them right from wrong? How to make good choices in their lives? And then all of a sudden we are shocked when they're just doing their own thing and they're causing problems for other people, doing criminal activities, And we're shocked. Well, it surprises me. How could they be doing these things? Well, hello, wake up. Smell the coffee. It's because you never taught them any better. I was taught better. And most of us as adults should have been taught better. So the bottom line is this has become a real problem in our culture. And we're not teaching kids what they need to be taught. Which brings up the education piece. What are we really teaching our children? Well, you look on the news reports and read Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. You delve into the education of what we're actually teaching our young people. We're teaching them sex education at the age of 7. Why do they need to know this? When I was 7, I was learning how to spell and learning my arithmetic tables. So I didn't need to know that at age 7. So what has suddenly changed that we need to be teaching our kids this garbage? And I mean, honestly, we really don't. We don't need to be teaching them this stuff. And a lot of it is ignorance. We send our kids to school for 8, 10 hours a day in some areas. Send them off to teacher. We work our jobs. Provide for our family, provide for their education. And then they come home completely different than when we sent them out. And they're not being taught what they need to be taught. The public school systems especially, have become a center of indoctrination. They're not teaching the kids the proper things that they need to be taught. How to think for themselves. How to make proper decisions. How to know right from wrong. We make a big deal about the 10 Commandments being up in the schoolhouse. How many of you have read the 10 Commandments? I know we don't want to give the kids any religious training for whatever reason. But think about it, the 10 Commandments. I mean, how bad is it that somebody reads these? First one, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Okay, well that teaches the kids not to worship false idols and to worship the one true God. Second one, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Okay, so don't make idols. Got it. Third one, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Okay, so 10 Commandments tell you not to curse. Why is that bad to have in school? Keeps the kids' language clean. Why is that so bad to teach to our children? Another one is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That teaches the children, okay, they need to work, do their job, but take one day to rest. Bottom line, to rest that day. And that also teaches them how to treat the people that they're going to have working for them when they get older. Is that really that bad to teach our children? Next one, honor thy father and thy mother. Why is this commandment inappropriate for a school setting? Well, from the indoctrination standpoint, it is very inappropriate. You don't want them getting funny ideas from their parents. You want to teach them what, quote, you think they should be taught, or that the government should handle their education. But the bottom line is, if they honor their father and mother, they will treat others with respect. They will learn how to interact with those in authority above them. Teachers, officers, political leaders, even just the person on the street. Honor, respect them. Why is that so bad to teach them? Another one, thou shalt not kill. Well, there are several instances where this, had this been definitely taught as being wrong, might have had an impact on how some students went and shut up a schoolyard. Were the 10 Commandments hanging up? Probably not. But why is it so bad to teach them not to kill? It's in the law. So why can't we teach them that? Another one is thou shalt not commit adultery. So you wouldn't have any teen pregnancies if they all were taught this. I don't see that as being bad. Less of a burden on the parents, the society, the teenager who has no idea about raising a family at the age of 12. So this is obviously something good to teach them. Next one, thou shalt not steal. That's pretty simple. It's in the law. Why are there copyright notices on things? Because people obviously haven't learned not to steal from others. Well, you teach these kids at a young age, stealing anything. Your neighbor's pencil, their answers off their test, anything is wrong. So that would be something we could definitely teach our children. That wouldn't be so horrible and terrible. Here's another one. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Okay, bear false witness, to lie. Well, this one's really hard to teach because we as adults do it all the time. I mean, you turn on the news, somebody's lying about somebody. Turn on anything involving politics, and I can almost guarantee within 5 minutes there's a lie that's spoken somewhere. So this is really hard to teach our children when we can't even not do it. But I can almost guarantee if we taught them, things would be better on the society as a whole. If lying was considered wrong, maybe we would elect better leaders. Maybe we'd have a better society. Less crime. The next one. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's wife. And it goes on. So if you're not wanting to take your neighbor's stuff, obviously you've been taught not to steal, you wouldn't manipulate things to take them. Somebody has $1 million. And you want that so bad you're willing to do anything for it. Well, that would be coveting. Coveting something that's not yours. Why is this so bad to teach our kids? And these are just general principles that we could be teaching our children. Now, I get it's a public school, we don't want to select one religion over the other. But isn't selecting no religion actually selecting a religion? I'll repeat that one. Selecting no religion is the same as selecting a religion. Because you're giving the kids no choice. If the kids want to learn about God on their own terms, they should be given that opportunity. And no matter whether you are an atheist, agnostic, a Christian, Mormon, Muslim, these are all good principles that we could all live by and live together and get along. So, honestly, I don't see the problem with having the Ten Commandments sitting in a school. Yet we're willing to teach them about alternative lifestyles before they're teenagers and thoroughly explore the options that they have. But we can't even teach them right from wrong. So how are they going to know what to choose? What is right to choose? They're not. And personal responsibility is something that I've definitely tried to teach my children. Whatever you do, whether right or wrong, you need to take responsibility for your actions. And I've worked in several different workplaces. I've had a lot of people under me before. And it's really sad for people who will do wrong or right and not take responsibility for it. They instantly want to point the finger. It's this person's fault. Oh, it's that person's fault. Well, where did they come up with this great idea? It was so-and-so's fault. Well, you look around. Look at the government. Perfect example. Everyone hears about them. Well, why are we having the government shut down? Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. Why aren't we passing a budget? Oh, it's the Democrats' fault. Nobody takes responsibility for their job. And then we're shocked when our kids don't do that. And then we're even shocked when we're the supervisors and other employees and our fellow employees or our workers that work for us, they don't take responsibility for their actions. It's a continuous cycle that we have developed with our horrific education system. Okay, some of you be like, okay, I don't have kids, Mike. What do? I don't really care. Why should I care? It's not my problem. Well, you were a kid once. We all were. Some of us still haven't grown out of that kid stage. But why should you care? Well, these are the people you're going to see on the street. You're walking into Walmart. Or any convenience store for that matter. Person next to you. In the aisle in front of you. What have they been taught? Have they been taught not to steal? No. Okay, so the individual hasn't been taught not to steal. Okay, that's serious, but, it's not my store. I don't care. It's not going to bother me. Well, yes it does. Because when somebody steals from the store has to recover those losses, so the prices are higher now to recover those losses. So now you're paying more because somebody else is stealing. What if the person in front of you hasn't been taught that killing is wrong? Murder is wrong. Okay, he hasn't been taught that. So what's to stop him from turning around and blowing your head off? So why should you care? You should care. Because these are the people you interact with every day. And the older you get, another generation's coming around. And they're being taught the same garbage. And guess what? They're going to get married. They're going to have kids. Or they might not get married and have kids anyway. And guess what? Those kids are going to be pushed out onto society. And you're going to end up running into them in the store. Out in the town. Driving on the road. So one way or another, this is going to affect you. So you should care what happens to their education. I was very fortunate. I had a really good education growing up. And I thank my parents for that. They had to sacrifice to put me into a good school. And I learned a lot. I wasn't a perfect A student by any means. But when I got out of that school, just comparing me to a lot of those who didn't have that great education, I felt really bad. They weren't taught 1492 of Christopher Columbus. They weren't taught about the Pilgrims. They weren't taught basic American history. So how do we give these people privileges to vote when they turn 18? They vote, but they don't even know what they're voting for. The guy says nice things, and then we put this guy into office. Bing bada bing, we've got a catastrophe going on. Because they don't know their American history. They don't know what we were founded on, who our founding fathers were. So that is why we should care. Even those of us who don't have kids. Because one way or another, we're going to interact with these people. Well, your question is, Mike, what can I do about it? Well, there's a few options. For those of us who have children, it will cost sacrifice to give them that good education. And there's lots of options. You can always shoot me an email at miked@erttradio.com. And I can give you a couple suggestions of where to send your kids. The kind of education that they should do. I personally do homeschool. And most of it is the same curriculum that I learned from. So, for those of you who don't have kids, what can you do? Well, there's a lot you can do. You do end up voting for your school board. Make sure the people you're putting in there know what they're doing. Are willing to stand up to the government watchdog saying, well, you need to teach them this, you need to teach them that. And be able to say, no, we need to teach them right from wrong. We need to teach them to be responsible for their actions. We need to teach them the Ten Commandments. Okay, whether they choose to believe in God or not, that's up to them. That is free choice. That is why we're in America. You don't have to worship this person or worship that person or be a part of this religious community. You can choose. And that is the way we were founded. We were founded that you could choose. So, when you go out to vote, put the right people in that should be there. And you're more than welcome to work for a school. You know, there are kids in your community that you could interact with. The kids next door, down the road, in your neighborhood. You know, take some time, shoot some hoops with them, teach them some principles. Not only about maybe sports or just life in general, things you have learned. Teach them the mistakes you made and how not to make them. How to make good decisions. Because as an adult, I've made some pretty poor decisions in my life. And I'm pretty sure most of you could say the same thing. You've made bad decisions. The idea of teaching our younger generation is to avoid the same mistakes we did. You know, things were tried, don't do this, didn't work. You know, then when they get older, they vote, they become leaders themselves. Not only have you taught them, but you need to teach them how to teach others. And that is something else that has lacked in our society for years. We've taught our kids, for some respect, you know, my generation, maybe the generation before, was taught how to be good people. But then, somewhere along the line, we didn't pass that knowledge on. We made it somebody else's responsibility. Oh, well, somebody else will take care of it. It's no big deal. Somebody else will do it. And nobody did it. And that void is filled with something. So if you're not teaching children, you should be teaching them. Something else is going to teach them. Do you really want the neighborhood bullies teaching your kids how to act? How to do drugs? Of course not. You want to teach them right from wrong. You want to teach them to make good decisions. So that is what you can do. I know there's been, touching on the education thing, there's been a lot of different interviews, and you can watch them on YouTube. People walk in the streets and asking just simple political questions. Who was George Washington? People don't know. Adults don't know. It's kind of frightening. You know, they ask, who president is? Oh, it's President Obama. Who's the vice president? I don't know. Is it Eric Holder? And you'll hear these responses, and those of us who actually pay attention to what's going on in the world and actually care are just shocked at the ignorance of people. They're more concerned about themselves. And that is something else we have taught our generations, is that the only thing that's really important is number one. I got to look out for number one. Number one's most important, and not anybody else. Well, all they care about when they get older is number one. So they don't pay attention to what goes on around them. It's sad when you see an old person, stumble and fall on the sidewalk, and watch 5 healthy adults walk by, look down, and keep on walking. Nothing makes me more mad. And we wonder why we have a bullying problem. Honestly, do we really wonder why we have a bullying problem when we don't care about anybody else? And this scenario is played out day after day after day. And then we turn around and look, what happened? Why is everyone doing all this dumb stuff? Why do they not care about anything else? Why are they looking to get rid of the older people? Why do they not care about life? It's because they were never taught. We didn't teach them, so why should we expect anything different? Bridging on to the education is the government. Government is an interesting organization, to say the least. It has its purpose, but like a hungry monster, when you give it too much, it gets out of control. And this snake, if you will, has slithered into our education system. And just to give you a simple thing, the government, when it has gotten its hands on something, almost never improves it. The free market is the way to go, giving people the choice. For example, of the failure of the government in education, let's look at postage. Yeah, look at the United States Postal Service. Governments run them for years. Ran them into the ground. They've been bankrupt. Okay, let's say FedEx. Are they struggling in the hard times? No. They got their stuff together. UPS? No, they got it together. What does the government have? Oh, they got all the money. Yeah, and they have nothing together. Because what ends up happening is you get the few people in charge that are more interested in themselves, in earning the power, getting the money, and forget everybody else. And that is what has happened to our education system. The government went in. It was a great idea to start with, a noble idea. And it slowly started corrupting. And the United States is one of the least educated countries in the world. as far as most civilized countries. Our students aren't leading the way. Our children aren't leading the way. They're not becoming the great inventors anymore. Because we're not teaching them. We're not giving them those opportunities. The government has turned the education system into the old Soviet Union education systems. They indoctrinate the kids. They teach them, you need to report on your friends. You need to, if your parents are doing this or that, you need to tell us so we can, fix the problem. And this is how the government slowly crept in. We've taught them. One school I read a report on was they were teaching the kids having to do an essay or paper, I can't remember which, to take out 2 of the Bill of Rights and replace them with their own. These kids haven't been taught the proper course of government, the proper way to amend the Constitution. They hadn't even been explained what each of the rights in the Bill of Rights meant, and then they're expected just to replace them. And that is pretty dumb. You don't start eliminating things until you understand why. You don't change things, but they don't want to tell you that because they don't want you to think for yourself, which explains why a lot of people have gotten elected, because they made everyone just dumb enough to elect them. Promise them goods from the treasury, which is how every democracy dies. As soon as the people can figure out, well, whichever guy gives me the more money, that's the guy I'm going to pick. So, the one who promises the most is the one who gets picked. And you see that over and over again with our political leaders. The Congress, the President, all these bureaucratic czars that pop up everywhere. All these people, oh yeah, we'll give you more money. We'll tax the rich and give it to the poor. That's not their job. They're not supposed to tax the rich and equally distribute the money so everyone's even. You know how to make everybody even? They know this. Make everybody poor. It's the only way you're going to make everybody even. If everybody had $1 million, everybody had $1 million. How much is that $1 million worth? Well, I'm selling a new monitor. How much are you charging? $1 million. Why are you charging $1 million? Because everybody has it and everybody can pay it. So, in order to make everybody even, you take the money and distribute it out evenly. And all that does is that ruins the incentive of people to work hard. And all that is because of how we've educated our people. And we look at some of the better nations that educate their people. They keep them with the basics and they teach them advanced technical skills. My wife, she went to public school. And some of the stuff she was taught her senior year, I was taught when I was in 6th grade. And it just kind of floored me, the education system that came out of the public school, and we wonder why the country is the way it is. So the popular idea is, give them more money, and that'll fix everything. We need more money. We need more money for the teachers. We need more money for the curriculum. We need more money for supplies, for buildings. We need to throw money at it, and that'll fix the problem. Well, you could throw a little bit of money my way, and I bet you I could fix some problems. I'll take the money. That's fine by me. Because obviously, the more money we throw at it, it's not fixing the problem. Because we keep banging our heads on the same wall. The wall's not coming down, but we throw more money at it thinking it will. Go back to the basics and teach the kids. My education philosophy is fairly simple. Number 1, teach them right from wrong. 2, teach them how to make good decisions. Number 3, teach them how to think for themselves. When you combine those three things, everything else will fall under that. Teaching them right from wrong. Okay, teaching them to think for themselves. Thinking for themselves is very important. That's how we became great. Thomas Edison and the light bulb. The Wright brothers in the airplane. They didn't just look around and try to steal somebody's idea. They worked thousands and thousands of experiments and testing, trying to come up with a new idea because they were thinking for themselves. What great things have we invented lately that have really changed the fabric of the world? No. We give the Nobel Peace Prize to somebody who's involved in more wars than any other president in history. Shocking. Which the Nobel Peace Prize, to me, is pretty much a joke now. So my suggestion is use those three principles. For those of you who are parents, teachers, no matter which subject you teach them, arithmetic, English, other math skills, history. History is an important one. Science, everything you teach them, instruct them how to think for themselves and how to make those good decisions and what is right and what is wrong. And then slowly, it's going to take a long time. It's not going to be something that's going to be done overnight, because we've already destroyed the education system in the United States so badly that it's going to take a while to fix the problems. As more of this is coming to light, the bad things the government keeps trying to force on our children, slowly but surely we'll take the kids and we'll teach them the way they should be taught. It's going to be slow and it's going to be painful. I know a lot of people like the quick fix method. Well, to be honest, the quick fix method really doesn't fix anything. It's like throwing a Band-Aid on a gaping chest wound. All it does, cover up a little bit, makes it look a little better. Throw a shirt on it, it'll be fine. That's not what fixes the problem. You got to go in and fix it at its core. And all the other problems that I'll talk about on this radio show. Obamacare, other political issues, the lack of history taught in our schools, everything. Everything is going to slowly come back to education. Because had we not let this go for so long, the country would not be in the shape it is in now. So I encourage you guys that are listening, guys and girls, gals, teach those around you. Some of them have already missed the power curve. They're in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. But no matter what age they're at, start trying to teach them how to think for themselves. Teaching them right from wrong when they're that old is going to be really hard to do. Especially without any some kind of cornerstone to go off of. But you teach them to think for themselves, which the elite definitely don't want. But teach them to think for themselves, how to make good decisions. You can start teaching anybody at any age, start teaching these things. And slowly or surely we will start to turn things around in our country. And then, probably won't be in my lifetime, but maybe towards the end of it, the United States will once again turn into the great, innovative, powerful country that we once were, where it's not about what we can get out of people, what we can get out of the government, but it's what we can give back to society, what we can give back to others. When the little old lady falls on the sidewalk, there won't be 5 people walking by. There'll be 5 people carrying her back to her car. That is the America I long for, when people cared about others. So they were late to their appointment for once, because they went and helped somebody else who broke down on the side of the road. When a catastrophe happens, they didn't just throw money at a charitable organization that most of us tend to do. They drove 200 miles to help clean up after a hurricane. They went to their neighbors, their friends, and they took care of one another. This is what we have lost in this country. More people think about themselves than about others. And all it takes is just a few people to start to step up, to do what they know is right, to make the right decisions, and to teach others how to do the exact same thing. And this is when America will once again be the greatest country in the world. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Always, if you have any comments or questions or issues you want me to talk about, contact information's on the website. My email is miked@erttradio.com. And as always, live free, die free.